Hello again, Sherry here. Just another video update on where I'm getting to on my legit rose mini quilt. We are on page 2. Or in this case, it's called A2. And then I've got all the pieces, so I'm just going to lay them out quick. And then according to the chart, and then start piecing them all together per the piecing instructions that I got stuck up here. So just give me a minute to get all this set up, and then we'll continue on with page 2 of 4. So, okay, so I'm going to try and stay out of the way here as much as I can anyways. Video cameras, gotta love them. Alright, I got these alphabetized, so it should be a little easier. And pretty much just follow the pattern to where it goes here. And they pretty much go alphabetically. Sometimes you'll wind up with them out of order, but... Alright, so we got F down there. G goes this way. H. Okay, so for anybody keeping track, that is exactly 32 pieces for this page, which doesn't seem like much, but if you look at the size of the pieces, some of them are pretty fun. So we're going to work on getting that prepped and ready to go. So just give me a second, and then we're going to get set up here to start piecing them. So give me 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Now, good thing with legits is a lot of their, because of how they make them, these seams usually match up with the piece next to it. In my case, because the background is all one color, not so much, but I do still try and match the seams, because with the quilting and when you put this stuff together, you're going to notice it. I'm just not sure how much. So I do pin match these, even because they're all the same color. I do want to still try and get them lined up the best I can. It's really hard to see on the black. So, alright. First piece. And it should fit right in the seam. Oh, I'm gonna match this one a little bit. And I do make sure that matches in a couple spots, only because with the paper, it's kind of hard to tell if your seams line up. And I blew this pattern up so big, the seam allowances are not your standard 1/4 inch, that if you have a normal pattern, the patterns have a 1/4 inch seam. But because I made this way bigger, I can't trust lining up the edges. So I make sure my lines are matched up. Match the seam lines. And again, got a really small seam stitch length. One, it makes the paper easier to tear out, and two, with all the piecing, I just like it better. And yes, I do back tack on mine, but I got an old machine that it doesn't anchor stitches real well, so much rather take the 10 seconds, throw back stitch in. Last thing I want to do is this thing come apart later. Okay, and I just double check, make sure it's pretty much on the seam allowance. It's pretty easy to spot on these patterns, and that one's good too. Now if you want, trim it now to the 1/4 inch. I don't trim every single one of these because I don't want to waste the time. Like I said, I made them generous because it was bigger than the pattern to start with. So we'll trim now, because I know as everything goes together, you're going to want the smallest seam allowance you can get, because there's a lot of pieces to these, especially these smaller ones. Lots and lots of piecing, which there again, don't got to be exact, just I try and get it smaller. I try not to go beyond the 1/4 inch unless there's like 8 seams coming together. Then I get my add an eighth ruler and trim it that short. Okay, take the paper off, so it's ready for the next one. Alright, and then for my instructions, which these are very easy to follow, it basically walks you through, so these 2 pieces, and then you want to add, so these 2 pieces, and then you add these 2 to those 2, C to A. So another good thing with Legit, they make it very easy to assemble everything. So this was step 1, and I need D and E next. So I'll put that back where I had it. And it says I have to join D and E next. So there, and again, just like this. And like I said, as you can see here, this seam line will match up with this seam line, which as you flip it over, they will, everything all kind of lines up. So, all kinds of fun. So we're going to start with that one. This is a really big seam allowance here. Let's take this down a smidge. And some of these I left big because they had the numbers on them. And when I blew it up, it was hard to tell what some of this stuff was, because if you trim it to the 1/4 inch seam allowance, it cuts all this information off. So that was another reason I left the pattern a little bigger than it needed to be. Because I figured I can always cut it off later, but if it disappears too soon and I need to know what's in that seam allowance, because Legit does a lot of pattern marking in their seam allowances, which in a normal pattern it's no issue, but in the oversized, when you scale them up, keep that in mind. Not only does it alter the seam allowance, but it's going to change where some of your stuff is numbered. And your white guidelines help line everything up in your sew lines. So, something to keep in mind. I learned that with the first one I blew up. I had to go back and pull the pattern piece out to figure out which was the order to sew the fabrics in, because when I trimmed the seam allowance down too soon, I couldn't figure out which fabric was which, because it was in the seam allowance. All right, those two are matched up. This is one of the few times you'll see me use pins. I like the clips. I mean, I grew up using pins, so I'm not afraid of them, but I don't like poking myself, so. Other than to pin match seams. And I will pin it just because I want it to stay accurate. This one's off a smidge here. That one's going to need a pin, it's too close to the edge. And this should hit right on this corner. Oh, and if you haven't discovered it yet, this is another excellent use for washi tape. Because I had sewed this pattern piece, messed it up, and then when I took the stitching out and had to put a new piece of fabric on, I used the washi tape, because then if you want to iron your piece, it doesn't gum it all up like Scotch tape, or sometimes I've seen people use masking tape and stuff, so you don't got to worry about hitting it with your iron, because this will not damage your iron at all, and it stays on the paper really well. And you can sew through it without, you know, having to worry about gumming up your needle. So, another use for washi tape, paper piecing. Get that clip out of there. Okay. Alright, what do we gotta do now? C to DE. Okay. C to DE. And we want this seam to go. Let's press it out. Can't tell where that 1/4 inch actually is. I'm thinking that's way too far. All right. Trim this one down. Not there. Trim it now. I don't think this one's too bad. No, that one's okay. All right, CDE. Nope. I'm going the wrong way with it. Okay. Alright, see where it comes out on this side. Right down the line. Perfect. Alright, let's plot. magic of recording, this is going to be the A2 full page. So give me a minute, we'll move the camera and I'll show you the 2 pages I have completed so far. Okay, and these are the first 2 pages. So this is how it would look from the back side. And then if you flip these over, this is going to be the top half of the rose. So, and like I said, it does have a solid background, not the printed side. And set that over there. And that would be these 2 pages, A1 and A2. So, as of right now, that's the top half of the rose. Kind of hard to see sideways. But that's what we're looking at. So, looks totally different in the blues and purples. So, now halfway done at this point. So that'll be the end of this video for now. And then I will start on the next page on the next video. I just figured there's no sense filming all the piecing because it's the same over and over and over. But that's where we're at so far with the 2 pieces. Okay, so that's going to be the end of this video so far. That is my second page of 4 pages for this Mini Rose Quilt from Legit. So please feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Hopefully this is helping anybody that has any questions or are unsure of if you want to learn how to do foundation paper piecing, because it really is simple, just step by step. These kits are very easy. They walk you through it step by step on the assembly, and they're very easy to put together. This didn't take any time hardly at all to get this one done. So 2 down, 2 to go. Hopefully I should have this done the next day or 2. And until we see you again, happy sewing!